Hello and welcome to Time of Death. I'm your host, Dee.
And I'm Ris.
And we are two nurses here to delve into the crime world, murder, mystery, thriller, ghosty, spooky stuff that you guys are all entranced by.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is actually take 2 because we forgot to record. So, let's try to recreate the magic we just spiced up.
I don't know if we can, but I'm willing to try, so go ahead.
I'll tell you, Ris is so entertaining, and Ris is truly the glue of this podcast. She has all of her crap together. She does such a good job. 99.9% of the time, I'm winging it. So, just want to give a shout out to Ris for being freaking awesome. We love you. Or I love you.
I hear you. I hear you. I know. I'm just amazing.
From me and the cats, we love you.
That means a lot to me.
I mean, it means more from the
than
cats.
you know.
So, here we have before I get into it, Ris, do you want to give them a little background on what we do here?
So, sure, I will. We are two nurses.
My mom is holding this freaking sign that says, medical professional.
As I was saying, and Mom was pointing out. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
We are two medical professionals or nurses, same
thing.
Same vein, who like to talk about true crime, giving our perspective from a nursing background. We both have nursing backgrounds in medical and psychiatric nursing, and we like to just delve deeply into these cases and give our perspective. And we like to talk a lot about true crime that has a medical significance or features medical professionals. So, without further ado, Dee, I'm ready.
Okay, so tonight's case, thank you, Ris, deals with how an individual named Calvin Jones got away with murder on a technicality. So, Calvin beat Sarah Tolbert, or Sarah Tolbert? Tolbert? I feel like that's such a gross way to pronounce it. Tolbert.
I think Mom said it was French.
Tolbert.
And Dee, French people, I don't think roll their R's. I think that's Italian.
Oh, Italian. Italiano.
Yes. Hat tip, or...
Hot tip. Yes, hot tip on Italy.
Quick
Factoid.
Quick factoid here. One of my two cats, Bubba, Mr. Bubba, Mr. Handsome, aka, we have not professionally done a DNA test to see what his background is, but I highly suspect that he is a York chocolate cat, of which there is a society honoring the Il Gatto Cioccolato, or the chocolate cat, in Italy. So that's just a nice little tidbit. Bubba has silky, dark chocolate-colored fur, and he has an extremely sweet temper. Oh, look, here he is now. Say hello to everyone.
Oh, that was like a freaking possessed cat. But it's our new case. The case of the demon cat. Oh my god.
Thank you, Mom. That was a great reenactment of Bubba. Also, here, if you are more interested in seeing and hearing about Bubba, which I know you are, he was featured in our Instagram post tonight. So if you want to see him purring into the microphone, I know you probably do, he's on there.
Also, I have an interesting fact. If you were to bite into the little chubby leg of Bubba, you would also have that chocolato ganache York peppermint patty taste.
I can attest.
He's
delicious legs. He's a York chocolate cat, most likely.
We have to cancel.
Anyway, moving on.
Mom's over here.
Make sure they know you're not abusing your animal.
Look, this cat is very well loved, along with his sister. All of our animals are very well loved. And yes, we do eat little nibbles every once in a while.
I do nibble him, but just lovingly.
All right, so
Not for taste, just for
not for taste.
affection. Anyway, let's get into Anyway, moving on. I know you could listen to me talk about Bubba all day, but I will stop. And Dee, go ahead.
Okay. I'm gonna have to recenter myself. That was a lot. Okay. All right. So let's focus because we want to give this the respect that it deserves.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So Calvin Jones, he beat his 23-year-old girlfriend, Sarah Tolbert, and drove her dead body around in his car after he had beaten her. She was found later the same day, but in a bizarre twist of fate, Jones was never convicted in her death. So picture this. June 13th, 1964. Calvin Jones, who's 33 at the time, was staying with his girlfriend Sarah in a motel in Maine. At 1 o'clock in the morning, in this unspecified hotel, the rooms on each side of the couple stated that they had heard the two people yelling at each other, and they were like belligerent. They were getting like increasingly angry, increasingly violent, and one witness later stated that they had heard a thump and then a shriek. It scared my kids.
A thump is never good, I will say.
Never fear the things that go thump in the night.
That's true.
So after that incident, the bellhop, who's someone that helps with the luggage, like one of the employees at the hotel, said that he had seen Sarah and Calvin come through the lobby. And he didn't think anything of it. He just thought that Sarah was really drunk because Calvin like propped her up and Sarah was slouched over. And he just assumed that she was very, very intoxicated. So he like carried her through the lobby of the hotel.
And what's their relationship?
They're dating.
They're dating.
Yeah. It's his girlfriend.
Okay.
So police later said that Jones had beat Sarah with a rubber hose and hit her in the head about 15 times. After he got her in the car, he drove around Philadelphia for several hours with her body sitting next to him in the car.
In the passenger seat?
Yeah. So he's driving around. He drove all over. He drove to Philadelphia, and she was just sitting in the passenger seat next to him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. While she was sitting there, Sarah ended up passing away.
Oh, so she died in the car?
Yes.
Okay.
Eventually, as he continued driving around later that day, he ended up going inside a police station in Newark, New Jersey to confess to his crime. And he did this after he realized that Sarah had died. So did not seek any type of medical attention. Just went right into the police station to turn himself in. He confessed to his crime and said that he had killed his girlfriend.
Okay.
So he fully admitted this. So Sarah was found that same day inside the car that was registered to him. They started their investigation, and part of any criminal case, anytime there's a suspicious death, they do an autopsy. That's like the standard. So the medical examiner came, took her body away, and the police soon after discovered the murder weapon soaked in blood, which was the hose, and that Sarah had been hit excessively in the head.
With like a garden hose?
It just says a hose online. I'm not sure.
That's so strange.
It was very, very strange. So they had found the hose that he beat her with soaked in blood, and apparently it was a rubber hose.
Oh my God, like a garden hose?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And he used so much force behind it that he just
Like
smashed
beat
her whole
her.
head up.
Yeah.
So Sarah was beaten excessively in the head. I mean, any hit to the head is just, but it was multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So what was very interesting was that Calvin had a past criminal record, which included poisoning his ex-wife in 1960. So 3 years before this. And he only served, I think it was like 2 years
Okay.
for what he did to trying to kill his freaking first wife.
So he has a history of violence.
Absolutely. He's vicious. So the medical examiner determined that the beating is not what caused Sarah's death in this instance. She had a blood disorder that is called sickle cell anemia. So for anyone that doesn't know, sickle cell anemia is a blood disorder, specifically an inherited genetic disorder. So it's inherited from either your parents. They have to have the gene for that. And it's one disorder in a larger group known as sickle cell disease. What this does is that it affects the shape of the red blood cells, which are responsible for carrying oxygen to different parts of your body. So usually red blood cells are supposed to be round, flexible, so that they can easily move through the blood vessels of the body. In sickle cell anemia, so someone like Sarah, those red blood cells are shaped like sickles, which are kind of like crescent moons.
Mm-hmm.
And these blood cells become very stiff and sticky. And when they congregate, they get stuck, they can slow or block blood flow.
And they can be extremely, extremely painful.
Yes. There is really no cure for this. Basically, it's managing. Like you said, the pain is a really big issue.
Yeah.
Other complications, which I just want to talk about quickly. So, like Ris mentioned, pain crises or vaso-occlusive crises. So when the sickle cells block blood flow through small blood vessels, this can cause severe amounts of pain. This can happen in different parts of the body and usually require them being hospitalized for pain management. Another issue, or complication I should say, is anemia. So this is what specifically Sarah had, is the sickle cell anemia. So because these cells are not shaped or formed in the way that they're supposed to be, they have a much shorter lifespan. And this leads to a chronic shortage of red blood cells, which is known as anemia. Anemia can cause fatigue, weakness, and shortness of breath because, again, these are the cells that carry oxygen throughout your body. Another issue is infections. So this is especially true in kids, and they can have opportunistic infections such as pneumonia, meningitis, and obviously they would use antibiotics either typically prophylactically, so beforehand, to help prevent them from getting sick. Stroke is another, which was most likely what happened to this poor, lovely young lady. Acute chest syndrome is another thing. It's very similar to pneumonia, and it can cause chest pain, cough, difficulty breathing. Essentially, it's when the affected cells block blood vessels in the lungs.
Mm-hmm.
And then various damage to organs, typically the kidneys, but it can also cause damage to the liver, spleen, and bones. So just to give a very holistic picture of what this illness would have looked like, in the 90s, life expectancy for people with sickle cell anemia was only until they reached their 40s.
Oh my goodness, I did not know that.
Yep. Now in 2023, due to advancements made in medical management, including better pain control, like we mentioned, the preventive antibiotics, blood transfusions, many individuals with this illness are able to live into their 60s and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
The medical examiner said that Sarah was already on the verge of death. Whether or not the beating happened that day, she would have died.
That's what the ME said?
Yep.
Okay, but the beating still happened.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
This was confirmed by a second doctor who said that Sarah's cause of death was actually the sickle cell anemia. But if you look into what can trigger sickle cell crises, there's 3 things that stick out from this. Dehydration,
Mm-hmm.
which she's not eating, she's not drinking, she's lost profuse amounts of blood. The shortage of oxygen, she already has reduced amounts of oxygen in her body due to the damaged cells.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously stress. So how they can sit here and say, oh yeah, she would have died whether or not this happened today, I don't think they could really make that judgment.
The stress could literally cause the stress of being beaten
Yeah.
severely
Mm-hmm.
can cause a sickle cell crisis that could cause a stroke.
Yep.
But also, do you know if there was any like suffocation?
No, all that it said was the injuries were to her head. But this is also, to keep in mind, this also took place in the 1960s. So I was able to find one article, like an original source about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then an assistant helped me find another article from the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very limited. I also wonder if there was a racial element as well, just because in sickle cell anemia, it predominantly affects people who are Black.
Mm-hmm.
So I could not find any information what Calvin's race was, but I wonder if this was a white on Black crime that was kind of swept under the table. So just to reiterate, the shortage of oxygen, the stress, the dehydration, all of these could theoretically and probably did affect Sarah during the altercation, as well as the drinking and hours of being driven around without any type of medical attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this was the perfect storm. And I don't think that there was as many medical advancements made at that time. I mean, look at how the life expectancy has increased.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this was a case of the medical community being very limited in their understanding,
Mm-hmm.
because she was also only 23 years old.
Yeah, she's so young.
And again, I wonder, sickle cell anemia predominantly affects people who are in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what Calvin's race was. This was in the 1960s. That wasn't documented. So I wonder if this was kind of swept under the rug as a white on Black crime.
It's very possible, especially for that time.
So this conclusion was determined by 2 separate medical examiners. And although he had savagely beaten her, apparently she had succumbed to her illness before. The official cause of death was ruled as natural causes, which is wild to me.
That is crazy.
And Jones could not be charged with murdering his significant other. Instead, he pleaded guilty to aggravated assault and battery. Wild. Wild story.
Did the autopsy show that she had a stroke, do you know? Or were they just guessing?
I think that makes the most sense. But how they can, that's probably exactly what happened, because that's a common complication from sickle cell.
Yeah.
And then keep in mind, he beat her head in.
Yeah.
Yes, this was very, very upsetting to me, this case, because justice was not served.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
No, I agree.
It's
That's not right. And even if, okay, medically she died, cause of death, stroke, but what led to that death?
Mm-hmm.
And also that doesn't make someone innocent if he beat her and you caused devastating harm to this woman. And then you drove around with her in the car from state to state. And then she passed away in the car, and you never got her medical attention. And she was unable to get it for herself. So, I don't know.
This is your significant other. This is someone you're supposed to love and cherish.
Yeah.
Very horrible. On some good news, on a positive note, I want to talk about an upcoming treatment for sickle cell. Because we need some good news after that crappy.
Yeah.
So, Vertex Pharmaceuticals and CRISPR Therapeutics have developed a one-time gene therapy called Exocell for sickle cell disease. This treatment is essentially modifying the DNA of specifically the patient's blood cells, which is in hopes to restore the production of fetal hemoglobin. So in this population with this illness, the fetal hemoglobin is normal at birth. However, this becomes defective as they become adults with sickle cell. In the clinical trials, patients underwent a process where their stem cells were modified using CRISPR, which is part of like gene augmentation, and the results showed significant improvement. Most of the patients were free from pain crises and hospitalizations for about a year.
Wow.
The first patient that underwent this type of gene therapy, her name is Victoria Gray. She said that she had a positive experience and noted that she's had a significant reduction of pain and improved quality of life after this treatment. The FDA is seeking advice regarding potential off-target effects, so side effects, regarding unexpected changes to the genome, because again, they're literally splicing and dicing the genes, and hopefully they will be making a decision regarding this treatment in December 2023, so next month.
Oh my goodness.
I thought that was really cool.
Well, that's good. I don't think they have very many meds for sickle cell anemia. I feel like oftentimes when they come in, we just treat their pain, give them fluids, antibiotics if indicated, and it's just like
supportive care.
Yeah, exactly, supportive care, but there's not very many that help like I know there's a few, but like not very many to help like reduce the frequency of crises or make it less severe, you know what I mean? But that's if that pans out, then that would, I think, make a difference. But I know, like you mentioned, sickle cell anemia is common in Black people, and often also their pain is not taken seriously, like throughout the history, even like currently. It's just not taken seriously, and a lot of the times it can be dismissed. And it's so horrible because it impacts all ages, even like little children.
Kids.
We've you know, but anyway, hopefully this pans out because that might make a difference to people.
I hope so. It's very sad. It's very, I would think, especially with his history of trying to poison his wife, clearly this was someone that was like sociopathic and just not a good person.
And he had intention to harm.
Yeah, absolutely. That should have them taken into account.
Yeah.
I mean, a little slap on the wrist, assault, aggravated assault, battery. Come on.
He was charged with aggravated assault and battery?
He pleaded guilty.
Oh.
Didn't say. So I am going to call it quits a little early tonight because Ris made the most delicious chocolate chip cookies. I am going to split one with Bubba.
What? Bubba can I eat chocolate?
He is a chocolato gato.
Even though he's a chocolate cat.
One won't kill him.
He is too sensitive of a stomach.
He actually is a very frail.
No, he's not frail. He just has cataracts and asthma and a history of cystitis, but that's it. And he's a little bit clingy, but that's it.
All right.
Anyway, you want to call the time of death?
All right, call it. I'm calling it. The time is 1932. That's 7:32 for all you non-military medical folks. Anything you want to add, Riz?
No, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. If you enjoyed our podcast today, feel free to like, rate, review.
Only 5 stars.
Only 5 stars are accepted. If you do less, it will be promptly rejected.
Bye.
Bye.